Hey guys, it's Jess. In today's video, I want to talk about how I essentially lived rent-free for the last 3 years. So I did this through a method called house hacking. So we lived in a duplex, we lived in one unit and rented out the other. So you probably heard the term house hacking. It seems to float around the internet. Doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people, but essentially house hacking is when you buy a property and you live in part of it and then you use the rest of it to generate other income. So this could be through having other roommates, through renting out an entire unit like a duplex, or through even renting out parts of your garage and stuff. So that's house hacking and the definition we're gonna go off today. So the reason I initially got interested in house hacking and real estate investing as a whole is actually because of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's probably the most popular personal finance and real estate investing book out there on the market. But genuinely, I love that book so much. I've read it so many times and I still probably reread it once a year at this point. But that book really opened my eyes as to the power of investing, real estate, and just taking control of your future. Robert Kiyosaki, the author of the book, makes a really convincing argument as to why you should invest in real estate. After reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, I wanted more real estate content. So I actually discovered the Bigger Pockets podcast. I love the Bigger Pockets podcast and then also the Real Estate Rookie podcast on the same network. So those are just such great podcasts where I learned so much over time as to different real estate investing principles and also stories of how other investors have built their portfolios and grown over time. Okay, flashback to our situation. It was the summer of 2021. We were moving to a new state. We knew we wanted to get a duplex that we could potentially house hack. That being said, we actually moved to an apartment for a couple of months just because we are new to the area, wanted to take time to do some analysis, get a feel for things, and just make sure we made a good investment. Once we moved there, we started working with a local realtor to find a duplex. So I honestly was not that strategic in my analysis, but I mostly just told the realtor like, hey, we want to get a duplex. We also are planning to use an FHA loan for it. So those are my main two criteria I told them at the time. I'd probably do it really different now, but that's what I did. That's how I got started. And so our realtor was aware of this and helped us find a bunch of duplexes in the area to tour. Eventually we found one we really liked. We put an offer and did get accepted. And we were really pumped with that and just started our journey. So the way we were able to purchase this duplex was through an FHA loan. So this is a Federal Housing Administration loan. Usually I feel like people just call it like a first-time homebuyer's loan, but essentially that's loans backed by the government, but you get through your bank. And essentially it's a loan that's made for people who have lower credit or just lower total income. It's meant to help those people who would have a harder time getting a house, get a house. And so the main benefit here is that it actually allows you to put just 3.5% down, as opposed to the standard conventional loan, which is more like a 20% down rate. And so that's a big difference. If you think about that in the context of just 100K for easy math, that's like putting 3.5K down versus 20K. It just makes it a lot more achievable to get a house or your first property. So a few call outs with FHA loans. The first is that it must be owner occupied for at least 1 year. So if you're the owner, you have to live inside the property for at least 1 year. Luckily for us, we were planning to live there for at least 2 or 3 years, so it wasn't an issue. But the reason that they do this is so people don't take advantage of FHA loans and just use it as a way to buy up a bunch of properties. Another call out is that you can only use it up to 4 units. So you could use it up to a 4-plex, but anything that's 5 units and above is considered commercial. And so you cannot use an FHA loan for that. And then lastly, sometimes sellers are less likely to accept FHA loan offers just because there's some extra inspections and whatnot that they have to go through. So sometimes they're less likely just because it's a little bit more hassle. So in our situation, we put the offer in for our duplex and it did get accepted. We used our FHA loan. So in total, I think we had to put down about 13K. So keep in mind, we were in a very cheap housing market and it was a couple of years ago. So a really small dollar amount, just about 13K to get our first duplex. And then after that, we had an old farmhouse that had been converted to a duplex. So as a top bottom duplex, we were living in the top and then we were renting out the bottom. And so from that point on, it was really just about finding a good tenant who we wanted to rent it out for and who could afford to pay the rents that we wanted to post it at. A really important call out with house hacking is to make sure you screen your tenants really, really well. When you're doing house hacking, you're just so much closer to them. You're either Having a duplex situation where you're both in different units but you see each other all the time. Or you might be house hacking and they're literally in a room in your house. And so you just see them a lot. So you want to make sure it's a good tenant that you want to be around, that you're going to have a good relationship with, and it's not going to get awkward. If you have a bad tenant, it makes life miserable really, really fast. So just make sure to do your research. And I give that cautionary tale because we've had ups and downs with that. I'd say we didn't screen some of our first tenants very well and we paid the price. So we've since then learned our lesson. So we've had the same tenant for the last couple of years. They've been awesome. And through having this tenant and house hacking, we've essentially not had to pay rent ourselves for the last 3 years. House hacking is such a great strategy, and I would definitely recommend looking into it more if it sounds interesting to you. There are definitely real estate experts out there who can probably explain it a lot better or give a lot more details. But in this video, I just want to give my personal story and give an example as to how I've used it and how you could potentially use it yourself. So house hacking has so many different benefits. Top 3, I'd say, is first, the ability to not have to pay rent or to have your rent hugely discounted because your tenant is paying it for you. Second, the ability to have an appreciating asset that your tenant is paying the mortgage down for. And then third, you're still getting tax benefits. Real estate comes with so many benefits, and when you're house hacking, you can still unlock a bunch of those. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. If you got any value out of it, please give it a big thumbs up because it really helps support my channel. And if you're interested in seeing more real estate, personal finance, or self-development content, please consider subscribing. If there's any topics you'd like to see me talk about or make videos on, please drop them in the comments below. All right, thank you so much. See you in the next video.